Richard Douglas Heatwool, or Big D as he called himself. Big D was a 45-year-old golf enthusiast, serial entrepreneur, and serial killer. On Thursday, January 1st of 2009, the small rural town of Candler, North Carolina, was shaken by a heinous triple murder and kidnapping. When I was between the ages of 13 and 18, I golfed many times with this serial killer. This man killed 3 people, his ex-wife and neighbor and tenant. Big D, I think he called himself that because he ran some driving ranges for many years in Asheville, North Carolina, and then later on opened up one just a mile away from my house, my childhood house in Candler, North Carolina. I thought about this the other day and decided to look it up, and it was pretty easy to find a couple of news articles. My little brother and I hit golf balls on his driving range many times growing up. My brother was 8 years old, I believe, when we started golfing at Big D's. That was one of our favorite activities growing up, but sadly, that activity had to end. So we went through many different hobbies growing up, everything from trying to make a band, playing music, martial arts, medieval stuff like making swords and bow and arrows, hunting, fishing. But at one point, my little brother and I, our hobby was golf. We went to the local Goodwill there in Candler, North Carolina, and Candler, it's developed a bit more now, but at the time, it was a very small town. Kind of place where you see like the Dollar General and a stoplight, and it's like, yeah, this is downtown Candler. And we had noticed the sign for Big D's golfing range in Asheville uh, for years, and we had wanted to go, but I didn't have my driver's license, and nobody wanted to take me golfing. But one day when we were riding back home to our parents' house in Candler, just about a mile away from the house, we saw this sign that said Big D's driving range and golf pro shop coming soon. So we were like so excited, man. We said, hey, we can just ride our bike over there. It's going to be great. My little brother and I were homeschooled and generally left to our own devices had to find a lot of different ways to entertain ourselves. So when we started golfing at Big D's driving range, and I didn't have a cell phone at this point in time, but we had a couple of bikes, we had a couple of Goodwill golf clubs, driving range clubs, and we had a few balls. So as soon as Big D's driving range opened up, we got on our bikes and rode down there. You could buy a bag of balls for just $5, which sounds mighty cheap, but I think at the time I made like $1 an hour working for my dad, and my brother probably made like 50 cents an hour. So that was a good day's work just to buy a bag of balls for us. And we met him a few times, Big D himself. It really was called that, believe it or not. But he would come out and hit a few balls, and I remember that we were impressed. Like he hit further than anybody else there. It was probably close to professional level, driving distance that he was able to drive those golf balls. He would, give us a lot of tips. So on the grand opening day, I think we were maybe his very first customers, but my dad and my brother and I rode our bicycles down and bought a bucket of balls for $5 and had a good time, rode back home. And my dad kind of gave us his blessing that that was an activity that we could do. So we did this many times between the years of like probably 2004 or something like that to 2009. So the very last time that we were able to play golf with Mr. D at the driving range, paid our $5, hit a bag of balls, and then Big D came out and he gave us both each a free bag of balls. like I said, I mean, $5 was kind of a lot to us at the time, so that really meant something. And he talked to us for a bit. He told us about how he rode around on his golf cart, this handheld gadget that would pick up the golf balls as he could just ride along in his golf cart and reach out and pick up the balls. And so he would collect them, and sometimes he even did this while people were still golfing. It's pretty interesting. But he said, you know, boys, I'm thinking about hiring somebody to collect the balls. And so I was thinking, like, man, I've got to get this job. I mean, I need money, and that sounds like a terrific job. So I had my hopes up that I was going to get hired to ride around on Big D's golf cart and collect balls. So we finished hitting our free bag of balls, told Mr. D, bye, we'll see you next time. We appreciate it. And we rode on back home to our parents' house. But then, I think it was the very next day. I'm not totally sure if it was the very next day or maybe the day after that, but we were just in our parents' house and we happened to see on the evening news that Big D had murdered 3 people and kidnapped his 2 children. And this was within probably 36 hours of when we had just been, hanging out with him. And it's just, I never would have thought it. I mean, he was a friendly guy. I'll read the news story about it. And it says, suspected killer takes his own life, children found safe. Thank God. Candler, NC. A man still sorting through a divorce committed early Friday after killing his ex-wife, a renter and neighbor, and abducting his children, according to the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office. The children, again, I'll leave out their names. Richard Heatwool took his children to a cousin's house in Alexander County, where authorities found him early Friday. He died from self-inflicted gunshot wound during a standoff with police, detectives said. Investigators began their search for Heatwool on Thursday night after finding his ex-wife, Angela, dead in a Candler home. And that home was less than a mile from where I grew up as a child. Authorities said he also killed Davina Garcia Agulto, 44, who was renting a room at the home, and Leslie Curtis Moore, 43, who lived next door. Lieutenant Ross Dillingham, a spokesperson for the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, said Heatwool and his wife had been divorced for about a year and were in the middle of settling property issues, but he said it still wasn't clear what drove him to kill. Who knows what could possess someone to do something this crazy, Dillingham said. I don't even want to speculate on any motive. I don't know that we'll ever know now that they are both deceased. Dillingham said Heatwool fled Buncombe County with his children to a cousin's house near Taylorsville in Alexander County, about 90 miles northeast of Candler. An Amber Alert plea for help from investigators triggered a public tip, and authorities surrounded the home early Friday. When deputies asked Heatwool to surrender, authorities heard 1 gunshot. It was another 4 hours before the cousin and 2 children came out of the home. Dillingham said he didn't know why it took the cousin so long to come out, but authorities do not believe that he was involved in the killings. Dillingham said deputies went to a home on Old US 1923 in Candler, looking for the children's mother, Angela Heatwool, after a family member reported her missing around 3 a.m. on Thursday. Yeah, Old US 1923. Had that very well memorized as a child, putting that return address on all my little thank you notes and cards I would send to my friends. Her car, Angela's car, Big D's ex-wife, her car was parked outside the residence when deputies arrived around noon, but no one answered the door. Based on the victim's vehicle being outside, they made an entrance, Dillingham said. Dillingham said once inside, deputies found Angela Heatwool and another person dead. The second victim isn't being identified until relatives are notified, Dillingham said. Through their investigation, officials found another person dead in a nearby home. Dillingham said Richard Heatwool was the only suspect in all three slayings. Neighbors said Richard Heatwool operated a golf driving range, Big D's driving range, and golf pro shop. Clyde Curtis lives across the road from the home where the bodies were found, and said Richard Heatwool seemed friendly enough. Yep, I would agree with that. He was quite friendly the many times that I encountered him. You never expect anything like this to happen in your neighborhood, he said. Investigators said that they had considered Heatwool armed and dangerous when they were hunting him and the children. He was on probation for drug possession in Pinellas County, Florida, records show. Him being from Florida is not surprising at all. I mean, it's kind of a meme at this point, Florida man did this or Florida man did that crazy thing. It is so heartbreaking to think of the last few hours that Big D's children, age 6 and 10, had with him. I mean, if he went on a high-speed chase from their Candler home to the cousin's house after murdering 3 people, I mean, you have to kind of conclude that those children were in the vicinity when that happened. And so high-speed chase, standoff with police, and then their father takes his own life there. And I've thought about those children several times throughout the years and prayed for them when I do think of them. I'm about to become a father, and it just makes me wonder, how much freedom can I give my children? How much can I protect them? I mean, it was great for us to have freedom just riding around on our bicycles and with no cell phone. We just kind of came home when we came home, but times are different now. The statistics for murder in the United States of America are pretty startling. Um, It says in 2024, a preliminary crime data from the US indicates a significant drop in murders, with some reports suggesting a 17.5% decrease nationwide. Specifically, some data indicates that there were approximately 16,700 murders in 2024, putting the rate back to pre-pandemic levels. So, I mean, those are some depressing statistics, but I'm glad at least it's down 17.5%. But I mean, I know for sure that I had close encounters with a serial killer several times. But with those kind of statistics, I think most people watching this have probably come fairly close to a murderer at some point in their lives. I have been hanging around close to home now because our baby was due on August 15th, and it is now August 21st. So I'm not going to go off hiking or motorcycle riding. I'm staying close to my wife so that I can take her to the hospital in time. But I was itching to make another YouTube video, so here you go. I think this is a lesson to just be aware of evil. I mean, those are startling statistics of the murder rate. And if you never personally know anyone that has been a victim, you might not think of it that much, but got to be aware. And I'm about to be a father. Our baby was actually due exactly 1 week ago. Um, So he'll be coming along any day now. And sometimes you think of how hard it is to bring a sweet, innocent child into this evil, cruel world. But of course, I believe that good is more powerful than evil, and that in the end, good always wins over evil. And I think it's a lesson too, to just kind of monitor your own emotions. I mean, like I said, Big D, Mr. Heatwool, was always a very nice guy to my brother and I. And but that but that day, just a couple of hours after we saw him, he viciously murdered 3 people. Not just his ex-wife. Of course, you could understand him having some serious grudges with his ex-wife, but also the tenant and the neighbor that lived in a different house. So this guy was on a rampage, and it could be likely that if my brother and I had showed up later, showed up at the wrong time, we could have been caught in the crossfire, so to speak. But it's a lesson to monitor your own emotions. I think all people get into a dark state and really think some ill thoughts about someone at certain times in their life. This reminds me of the Bible scripture in Matthew chapter 5 when Jesus is teaching and he says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment, and whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel." And later on, he talks about how adultery begins in the heart. So I think he's really saying here, just thinking it, dwelling on that thought of wishing ill towards someone is just as bad as murder. And I imagine that Big D probably never thought that he would end up murdering 3 people, but in a bad situation and just continuing to dwell on those murderous thoughts ended up with 3 people dead, 2 of which probably never even really did anything bad to him. And you can kind of see his remorse, and that in the end, I mean, I guess getting his children to the cousin's house away from the murders was the right thing to do. And of course, he felt remorse for it, taking his own life. It's just a lesson that, we all have these angry emotions sometimes and are upset with people, but you can't dwell on it because look what it leads to. I am inspired to make this video today because I was just notified that one of my very best friend's mother just passed away. And this friend was murdered when we were both 20 years old. And so that just brought back a lot of memories, and so I decided to make a video about it. My friend's mother died too young, I think. I mean, she was younger than most people pass away, and I think a significant part of that was heartbreak. Well, if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you watching. I mean, I love making YouTube videos. It's become my favorite hobby over the last year since Hurricane Helene. And I've just had a weird life, man. I mean, I've had some unique stuff happen that does not happen to most people. And so I like sharing it. And don't get me wrong, like, I love my life. I've been very blessed and I have a wonderful life. But I've also had some really weird stuff happen. Most people have not had their best friend murdered when they were 20. Most people did not grow up, seeing a serial killer on a semi-regular basis for several years, but I did. And most people were not born with an extra cervical rib that punctured their brachial artery and almost killed them, but I did. And most people did not have their house completely destroyed by a hurricane, but I did. So I have a weird life and I'm here to share it. May God bless you. Watch out for those serial killers because they're out there. Peace be with you. Thanks for watching. We rode up the Parkway the other day to get one final last pregnancy photo shoot in. And then you can see across this valley here how they are working on the Parkway over on that other mountain across the valley. So they're doing tons of work here.